I forget that they changed that setting. Um, but they today I want to jump into kind of really learning from each other, having the harder conversation of what did you try that maybe didn't work out so well? What lessons have you learned? What programming have you found that just is perfect and you think is a really great fit for your center that you didn't have before? So this is going to be a conversation of just sharing now, and learning from each other. Who has tips and strategies? What resources are we using? What um, videos or platforms have you found very helpful and successful? I also want to dive in today a little bit to talk about, um, how are you reaching those that have been a little scared of technology, have not really wanted to jump into it, aren't comfortable with it, or maybe just don't have the knowledge or the know-how. So, and even how are you addressing those that maybe didn't have the technical devices that were needed to move everything online, or were so rural that they couldn't actually access the online platforming? So, we have a lot to, a lot to unravel with all those thoughts. But today, I really just want it to be a lot about how we can just share what we've learned so far. And this is part 2. So please know there will be a part 3 that will be happening in August. And that's where we're going to figure out what do we do then. So we're going to really try to keep the conversation right around this topic of sharing ideas and tips and tricks today. Couple of things. We do have closed captioning that can be found in the menu bar under the CC tab. And then we also have a sign language interpreter. You'll see it says George ASL interpreter on his box, and you can make him larger by pinning him, and that will allow you to see him the whole time in a larger platform. So, and if you would like him even larger, you can select speaker view and pin him as well. So that will allow you to see him larger if you'd like. So this conversation does not have speakers today. You all are the presenters, the facilitators, the experts. And so with that, I'm going to open it up. First, I want to, if anybody just happened to be on or has questions about last time that we had our conversation about how we define community and things like that, I just want to spend a few minutes maybe revisiting that thought. If anybody has any thoughts on that or things they took away from last time they want to share. Okay, well, I see a lot of new faces, so that makes sense to me. I will share kind of some of the stuff that we talked about last time. Was really some really innovative stuff you all were doing. So there was book clubs that had started. There were goodie bags that were dropped off at doors. There were cooking sessions where people were providing all the ingredients to the cooking sessions, and then you were all doing it on Zoom together. And then there's also been some really great peer support. We talked about how that was really needed. And so some of our skill-based work moved to a lot of peer support work while people were needing people over the last year. And then how you really moved to online and what that process was. So a lot of good ideas came out of it. Now, and since there are so many new people, I will open that up. If you want to share kind of some highlights, what's gone really well for you all that you want to share with the group. We've got a nice crowd to share on here. So what's working for you all as far as your programming right now and in the last year? Go ahead. I was going to say, go ahead, Josh.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, I needed to connect my mic. So we certainly know that COVID has been quite the interesting year for everybody, and it's been quite an impact. But while it's been an impact, one thing that's been nice that came out of it is the virtual portion, kind of like what we're doing now, utilizing Zoom, Microsoft Teams, um, and other video platforms. We've been able to use these video platforms, primarily Zoom, to connect to and meet with consumers as well as provide virtual activities in some of our most rural areas. Not only that, but internet has been able to be provided certain hotspots in certain areas of our outer counties, our more rural areas, and that's been able to play a really good role where we can have individuals who we were unable to get to even before COVID. So while COVID has been quite the impact, there's been good that's come out of it too. We're able to meet with consumers and do intakes as well as other meetings virtually. While we can get verbal consent when we're filling out information with them, we're able to really, it's not the same as that in person by no means, but it's still a way that I see when we think about barriers to independence, and one of that being is transportation. And sometimes individuals don't have that transportation, and I think that through video platform that we're able to really kind of get at that and kind of make another step at being able to decrease that barrier just a little bit. And I think that's something that's been pretty good that has come out of COVID.
Awesome. Thanks, Joss. Can you share really quick so you said Zoom, and you said being able to reach some of those rural areas. Have y'all been handing out hotspots to
So
your consumers?
with our CARES Act funding, we're actually able to pay for Wi-Fi setup, as well as if someone doesn't have a phone, we're able to provide a phone for them as well. And that's not just as we have consumer meetings with them, but that's if they're wanting to participate in activities. We utilize some of our CARES Act money and we put it around technology. Technology being, not just say tablets or like Chromebooks or things like that, but as well as paying for a Wi-Fi setup. So that's been able to really impact how we work with our consumers. And our recreation manager, he's been able to do activities virtually. It's very different for him at first, but he was able to really adjust and also see that we were able to get more individuals, not just in our county where our center is at, but our outer counties as well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Um, I've heard of the hotspots and I've heard of the tablets, but I haven't heard of the Wi-Fi actual helping with that setup cost and process. So that's awesome. Did anybody else? I saw somebody else unmuted. Did anybody have any questions for Joshua on what they've been doing, or want to share what you've been doing? What's been working? The positives. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I just wanted to say because I wanted to see if anybody was having issues with Zoom with sharing their screen, because we were for a while for the peer support. I would do like we have a Disney Plus account or a Netflix account, and with Netflix you're able to share your screen for the peer support, and it'll be fine as long as it's a Netflix original, and I haven't been able to to share my screen through Zoom. Is anybody else having difficulty, whether it was Disney Plus or anything like that, just to like for us to watch a movie all together on Zoom for the peer support?
This is Janine from Michigan, and I'm not sure if this is the issue you're running into, but I know whenever I'm sharing a video, after I select share screen, I have to optimize it. So you need to select the two buttons that appear in the lower left-hand corner. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see what they say. It says host disabled participant screen sharing. Um, so I can't see what they say, but you would have to optimize it for a video.
Thank you. I'm going to try that out.
You're very welcome.
Julia, I see your hands up as well.
Thanks. I'm the center director in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I want to say that some of what I would say is very positive. From the executive director perspective, are some of the unintended positive things we couldn't have envisioned. My budget has shifted significantly away from money that I needed to spend for going out of town and having training sessions like at Nickel or Silk Congress or something like that. Silk meetings are now on Zoom. And so I've been able to shift some of the money that I had in my budget for travel to actual more consumer services. So that's been an interesting unintended positive thing. Another thing is that the staff doesn't have to spend as much time traveling. And so if there's a meeting, it takes an hour to do a meeting, not 5 hours to do a meeting, because it takes you 2 hours to get there, an hour for the meeting, and 2 hours back. So the staff is more productive in that regard. And we've had more participation from board than ever before, because typically we have allowed board members to call in. But now that we have the technology, we have more participation from board members who can that have significant disabilities. And so the consumers are benefiting from all of that, maybe not specifically directly, but as an executive director, I'm feeling positive about those shifts. And we are doing a lot of education. We've always been doing a lot of education. We do a lot of ADA training and consulting. And we have people now that are from all over 2 states that are connecting every time we have one of those, rather than you have to make it to the meeting in order to participate. So I'm seeing those as some positives too.
Those are really great. Thank you for sharing that. And I saw some heads nodding along with all of those things you were just sharing, Julia, of the money being able to be more applied to consumers now versus some of the staff cost of travel or any of that. So looks like you're not alone in that thought. Um, I wanted to swing back to the screen sharing. Did anybody else have? I actually want to specifically ask, has anybody else run a youth leadership forum last year? Um, they uncovered some screen sharing tips last summer. I was trying to do a quick look through if I see anybody. Okay, I don't see anybody. I don't see anybody with their hands up or unmuting. What I was going to say is sometimes, so Netflix has certain things that you are not able to screen share, and Disney Plus and some of those streaming platforms, they will block it. There is a way around it. I know that there was some youth leadership forums last summer that screen shared Crip Camp, and that was one of the ones that has been a little tough. So I will follow up on how they did that, because I didn't learn that either. I ran into, we can screen share this. This is great. And then a big black box. Is that what you've been seeing, is the black box?
Literally that. But I contacted Netflix, and I even contacted Disney Plus, and I told them, hey, we're a nonprofit organization, this is what we're doing, it's a peer support meeting. And Netflix said as long as it's a Netflix original, they're fine with it, that it should be allowed, and like you shouldn't get in any trouble or anything like that. But please, yeah, if you could find that webinar, I would love it.
Yeah, because Crip Camp, I think, is a Netflix original, because that's the only place it's streamed. So that showed the black box. So I know what you're talking about. But there's, oh, does somebody have the trick?
I don't have the trick, but I
Oh,
would be willing to wager that there are folks in the disability community who could reach out to the producers of Crip Camp and perhaps clear up the problem, because I don't think they necessarily, I'm sure it's not that their idea to have a problem. That's what I was thinking. That's certainly a movie that should be very shareable.
yeah, thanks. One of our own IL um, colleagues has actually started doing more work with Crip Camp in their summer program they ran last year, and has now moved towards that. So we'll have to reach out to Rosie. Um, So thank you for that. And we'll keep
Yeah, this
we'll
is
keep
Josh.
plugging in. Go ahead, Josh.
That the crypt camp, I believe. So we've had a lot of new staff over since our new executive director stepped in, and I stepped in as the assistant director. We had to fill some positions. Well, with the crypt camp, I believe we just did 2 staff meetings where we showed it as an educational piece to kind of gain some more insight. And I believe, if I'm looking at this right, we pulled it off of YouTube as well. So that could be another way to use that. And I will say that, so we, along with our CARES Act money, we did invest that into a monitor in our conference room, and it is a Zoom monitor. We have found a few ways to share the screen. The Netflix is definitely, that was an issue. But we have been able to, at least with our screen, I use an HDMI cord and I just run it off of a computer, and then I just mirror the screen. I've been able to do it that way, but we still run into issues as well. But I know with Crypt Camp that you can pull it up on YouTube as well.
See, with our brains combined, we can solve the world's issues. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
All right. Well, if anybody has anything, any tips or anything, always feel free to drop that in the chat as well. I see in the chat right now, Janine dropped in. We've been fortunate to utilize the ADRC grant, No Wrong Door program. This provides participant with free tablet and laptop. We offer assistance with basic functioning, such as turning the device on and off, use Zoom, etc. Those who are eligible include people who don't have technology at all or have very limited technology that doesn't meet their needs. So this gets them out of isolation and helps them with their doctor's appointments through telehealth. Very awesome. Thank you. And then Jed had mentioned the bandwidth would be paramount. Yeah, that's true too. Well, thank y'all. Anybody else would like to jump in on what is working? What are some of those wins? Like Julia pointed out that we didn't know were coming when you started all of it. And then what are you did you plan that really worked? All right. Well, then we're going to reverse the conversation. What walls have you run into? Okay, Kendra said more engagement from youth has been a benefit, a positive. What is not working? Where are you at that you're stuck or that has become a little bit of a barrier or you're not sure how to navigate? Anybody on here want to share any of those places? Because this is where you have your brain trust here of people that can maybe jump in and help with some of these things. I know there was one, we kind of got around talking about it on one of our last calls, was a lot of CARES money has gone to helping consumers get different supplies they need, maybe a food or different technology or whatever they needed, personal PPE, that kind of stuff. But they're not interested in the IL services or working towards a goal. They just are looking for you to kind of pay for whatever you're paying for ongoing. And they're not able to really engage people into having more of a goal that's led by them. Has anybody else kind of dealt with this or seen this at all? Have any tips for that? I know we've seen it, maybe not with the CARES Act, but I know that we've seen it sometimes in other areas.
Sierra, this Julia again. I'd like to speak to that.
Go ahead.
It doesn't surprise me that that's happening. And I just want to take a second to go back to the IL philosophy. There's a reason that Centers for Independent Living don't do services generally. because we want to engage folks in a longer range peer support mentoring relationship rather than becoming a store. And way back, Ed Roberts said that if you start providing services, then you become a service provider rather than becoming a center for independent living. And every time in the course of the time that I've been at the center, that there has been an opportunity for a service, let's say it's ramp building, or we had some Section 8 vouchers once upon a time that we were in charge of. And now the CARES Act money. Anytime we have those kinds of services, we lose what we are supposed to be doing because people are coming to us like a store. And what's going to happen is when the CARES Act money goes away and we're not able to do that anymore, then people aren't going to be interested in us. And so it's not just anybody that qualifies or wants to qualify for their lives to improve. Some people want to come to us because they want their lives to not get worse. And we all have to, as Centers for Independent Living, we have to address what our philosophy is, what our programs are for. And we tell people that we're not a store, and we'll be glad to help you if there is a goal other than maintenance. It's really difficult to do. That's one of the struggles that we've had, and I'm sure that agencies that have boards of directors that are not steeped in the independent living philosophy have had a struggle with that with their boards of directors.
Thank you for sharing that. And it is, I would say it is hard. I think a lot of people got this nice chunk of money from the CARES Act, and we want to help our community in whatever way that look like, um, and hope to make a connection there with that part of the community in the IL way, um, but meeting those emergency needs. And I see, Kendra, you said that most of the consumers you get are only interested in CARE Act. And I'm guessing that's the same kind of situation then, of only wanting what you can do with the CAREX funds necessarily. And then I saw that Angel said that getting consumers to participate in online events that are mostly IL skills related, even when they have the technology. Okay, so Angel, are you saying that they don't want to work on IL skills for the online platforms?
No, I think that because it's kind of foreign, some people just really don't know what it is, don't know what to expect. The ones that show up really do enjoy it. They appreciate it. They have a tendency to come back. And it's just getting people to kind of buy into the whole concept of doing events online instead of in person. I mean, it was tough getting people to come in person. You know, there's transportation issues and, you know, scheduling and things like that. And I would think, and I think that we believed that doing online events would help increase the number of participants for, you know, peer sport, IL skills, anything like that that we do. And we've had regular events this whole pandemic. And they've been really good content, and the people that have come have really appreciated it. But the level of participation isn't what we were hoping it would be. And I don't know if we're not conveying properly how easy it is. I think that I've had several people that have tried to get on. We've done it all through Zoom, so I can't say that we've tried a whole lot of different, but they've had a hard time getting in. We have a lot of folks who are blind or low vision, and I think that sometimes it's not a very friendly format for them initially, so they get kind of turned off by the experience and they're reluctant to try it again, even though I encourage them, you know, hey, you've figured out what went wrong the first time. You kind of figured out what not to do and give them ideas about what to do without physically being able to look at their device and see what's going on. But I don't know if there's a particular way to invite people or encourage people, or if anybody else has had that problem with the degree of participation with online IL skills event and peer support events.
I would say, you know, one of the things, and Tanya Thomas, if you can hear me, jump in anytime. Um, one of the things is that, you're not necessarily going to attract new people with a virtual event. I mean, hopefully you do, and I'm not saying it can't be done. But I think if people are already coming to your events, they might be more inclined to take the time to learn the virtual thing. I mean, it's like, I don't think anybody's gone out and found a new church virtually. Maybe they have, and I don't mean to, I'm picking on churches here or houses of worship as an example. Um, that if you're already invested in the Center for Independent Living or the House of Worship or the Elks Club that you belong to, you're going to take the time and the effort to keep up with it through Zoom. I'm not sure it's necessarily something you're going to want to join for the first time via Zoom. So,
well, it's kind of funny. We've had the opposite experience. A lot of people that have shown up to the online events are they're kind of new to the whole event thing. And I'm wondering if it's because they tend to be a little bit younger. So it's that comfort level with the technology
yeah,
that may be playing into it.
and,
And plus, we've opened up all these events kind of community wide. We've shared it with community partners and let people know that,
right.
I mean, short of being a very specific peer of support event, which we would not invite other people to, we have made it where, come and join us, learn about us, we'll learn about you, and learn about whatever topic we happen to be on.
Yeah.
We started this out with intersectionality and disability, housing, voting. I mean, we've kind of done all kinds of really awesome things. So it's a shame that so many people are missing out on it.
Yeah, and again, I personally, I can't speak for the organization I work for, but I personally have the philosophy: if you can teach, if one person gets something from something, you've succeeded. But I realize that the people who pay the bills might have a different philosophy, and for good reason. But and I was just thinking, yeah, because you are going to get people, and as the gentleman Joshua, I believe, said, you're going to get people from, who can't necessarily physically travel. Again, we've got a service area. We've got two offices, one in Billings, Montana, and one in Glendive, Montana, and our service area is just slightly smaller than the state of Pennsylvania and slightly larger than Mississippi in terms of land size, and we're 1/4 of Montana. So, there are events that we can hold virtually that, even after this pandemic, we will continue to hold virtually because, to get people in Billings, Montana, and Baker, Montana, and Columbus, Montana, and Sydney, Montana together, it's got to be virtually. Otherwise, somebody's going to be in the car for an inordinate amount of time.
Right. Yeah. And I think that part of it is on us because we get busy with our day-to-day stuff and we're not reaching out to consumers the way we should, or community partners. And the ones that have been successful have been very successful. I just noticed something in the chat too, and I know that my comment came in kind of in the middle of a different conversation, but we're seeing the exact same thing that Cindy just wrote in the chat. She said, same thing at disability partners. Many people wanted help paying bills, but had no interest in setting goals and working on independent living. We all had no training before being given the funds. We had to figure it out as we went along. I think I could have written this, Cindy. However, we also had word of mouth that money was available. So we received many from the same neighborhoods and family members. Now we are experiencing repeat callers wanting help again now that the funds are gone. We also gave computers on a scholarship so that people would join our peer support group online. They never showed up. Yeah. I don't know that we've had that problem with the people that we've provided the technology to. I think that some of them have utilized it, but they're kind of also in that older age range too, but they're less likely to do these events. But yeah, you hit on a lot of really big things. We did get people repeated, coming back for requests for the funds and not wanting to set goals and work on independent living. So I would kind of sneak in some of those concepts while I was working with them, kind of drill down, how they got to where they were so behind on bills. And then I would share resources in the area that kind of help people do better planning, looking at different opportunities for rentals that, weren't quite so high, which here that's like a unicorn. Finding any housing at all is impossible, much less one that's affordable or accessible. That's a whole nother conversation. But what Cindy wrote, I think everyone at Life would probably say the same thing. And it was a lot of word of mouth, family members, people in the neighborhood. Of course, our criteria being that they had to be people with disabilities, but they sure enough were. I mean, we did careful screening processes and everything, and we were happy to help them. It was kind of fun, even being able to assist people and see these tangible efforts. But then you did run into the lack of goals and that continuation of that relationship. So, and I think that's partly on us too. We have to be able to be friendly and persistent and follow up with them. Kind of don't let them fall through the cracks. Once we've provided that assistance, follow up with them, which I've done. And some people have been responsive, and some people just they got what they wanted and they've moved on. So
In our ILC, we have been looking at it from a different perspective. At least I have. I'm coming from the perspective of an individual who lives with mental illness and is on the autism spectrum. So it's not talking about how our clients are affected or how, what our clients are into and what our clients are not into. It's, like some of the rest of you who lives with disabilities, it's about what can we do to support each individual in their ability to maintain from day to day. And then on top of that, how can we also help enrich lives? So, what I see as a great opportunity to increase access to, the internet and to increase access to technology is, a peer support group that I run. You have individuals who are desperately lonely and do not have access to people around them to be their friends, or to be able to support them emotionally, um, or even to discuss the opportunity of advocacy, how to advocate for yourself, anything from, getting connection to food. You want food? Well, we're going to reach out to this food bank and we're going to sign things up. And there you go, advocacy for the week. It's fantastic. You want to write a letter to the vice president about, the homelessness situation, because, people with disabilities are 50% of the homeless individuals that are out there on the streets. Awesome, let's do that. So it's just about creating enough supports that you can help an individual flourish with that love and acceptance and warmth and compassion, and and then just broaden their horizons and give them a place to be heard and be right, and do something good in their lives, rather than just mess up again, or just be that person who's a problem again or a burden again, you
mhm,
know so
yeah.
it's kind of like one of those things where I've personally just see it as tying in support, recovery, day-to-day maintenance of disability, and in compassion, and then expanding, ability to learn, efficacy, and just moving from there. And you have people who didn't want to be on Zoom before, all of a sudden they're on Zoom. They're using, they have phones. You can be on Zoom on phones. Everybody has a smartphone almost. It's like there's total access to technology, even if we don't hand out, more Chromebooks or whatever that we got from the CARES Act, which was totally awesome, you know, but, not everybody needs it. And so it's just, I know we're small and we don't have a lot of people who are able to participate, but I really feel like this has been really worthwhile.
Thank you for sharing that. There was so much stuff that y'all pulled out of there, you and Angel together. I really like some of the conversation around when they asked for, I'm short on funds. Well, let's talk about budgeting and where your money is going, and how you can work on that. Creating that need into a skill too, I think is something really important. And then also realizing that things are sometimes day to day for some people, and meeting that. That's great. Thank you for that. I just want to highlight a couple of other barriers that were dropped into the chat too. Kendra had mentioned, and Angel, this might go to some of what you're seeing too, of just online fatigue, you know, with that productivity that Julia was talking about and how we're not traveling anymore. That does mean that we have 30 seconds, if that, between a meeting to another meeting. And that can be exhausting, especially if people have been, we're working in an office or doing something physical before, and now they have to move everything online. And now they're recreational stuff or their skill building stuff that's not necessarily occupation, the stuff they're doing with the centers, the goals that they're working on and those types of things are online too. That might just give them some fatigue of like, I'd like to join that group tonight, but I've been online all day. I've heard a lot of people saying that.
Yeah, I agree. There are days where it's almost comical. And we wouldn't do this in person. Why are we scheduling ourselves this way virtually, where you're literally in one meeting, you are watching the clock for the last 10 or 15 minutes of that meeting because you have to jump on the next one, but you haven't gone to the bathroom, or you need to eat, or you need to return a phone call. And 4 or 5 meetings into the day, you're like, what have I done? Who have I helped? What has this accomplished? And it gets a little frustrating, and then sometimes, because especially at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of brain fog and disconnect, and you weren't really retaining a lot of things. So yeah, it's a mixed blessing. I have found it to be immensely helpful and rewarding in some ways, but it's kind of ridiculous and comical in another way, because you're looking at this screen, you're interacting, which is beneficial, and at the same time, you've got one webinar overlapping with another one, and 5 meetings into the day, what have you really accomplished? Who have you helped in that span of time? And other than stare at a screen and not get up and move, which is really bad for your body, by the way, to not take breaks from the computer. And it's something that we've encountered. I'm wondering who else on this call can relate to that.
It's like junior high.
I see a lot of heads nodding.
It's like junior high. There should be at least a 6-minute passing period between each Zoom meeting.
I agree.
That's not a bad rule. Too bad we can't just, contact people and say, hey, by the way, can you rearrange your meeting for me?
This is Josh from Central Washington Disability Resources over in Ellensburg, Washington, and it really is a thing. I mean, there's been days where we're on our spill committee to our legislative committee to emergency preparedness committees, and then those meetings stack up, and it really is one of those things that I have low vision, and I'll have to put sunglasses on sometimes because I spend so much time in front of the screen, and I'm just like, I need a break. And I will say, occasionally, if it's a meeting that I sit on a committee, occasionally I will sit outside and have the meeting and throw headphones in just to try and get that sense of being outside for a minute, because those meetings really do stack up.
It helps if I unmute. I guess when we're also talking about consumers, though, and joining your conversations, have y'all been able to kind of address their fatigue? And I know that we have fatigue on our side for sure. I think all of us can relate to that. Is there anybody that has found good tricks or ways to get around that, of everybody go outside and join from outside on our meeting tonight? Or what ways have you gotten around that, or have you?
Elude stack. With the peer support, what we do is I'll share my screen on like a YouTube video, and it could be like a 1 minute stretch video, and like literally we will all stand up and do it together, so that this way, like, okay, hey, we've been doing, let's do it. Like, so I try to do it once a week, because they kind of they all get bored of the videos and stuff like that. So I'll try to do different type of stretches and stuff that help them out, just to get them out of their chairs and stuff. So it's very much YouTube has become my best friend. So yeah.
This is Josh. one thing that we did prior to me moving positions with our CARES Act, we actually bought quite a few art kits and some easels and fitness equipment, and we've been able to loan all those products out. And then what we've done is we do the Zoom activities, we do it through that, and we do all our stretching and fitness activities virtually. But our art activities, which is one of, I think, our most important ones that we utilize. And this is just one that somebody did. When I first started getting this up and running before transitioning, I wanted to address that. One thing that we noticed is that a lot of people, just kids in general too, they were unable to see their friends in person. They're just cooped up. That isolation, just a massive increase in anxiety, depression. And this art activity we would do once a month, but it was an art activity where we were able to gain quite a few consumers. And the idea behind the art is we would find something that we can all paint together and talk about it. What does isolation look like? Describing the word, what is it? As well as, energy. What does that? I mean, somebody painted a lightning bolt and that red car off of Cars that I can't remember the name of. And just was able to express their feelings, but through art. We also do a music class that we just started up a month or so ago too. So that kind of, I'm a big proponent of music and art, and I love art. I love being able to just, draw or paint or do photography to help decrease stress in my life. And when I first started this art activity, the hope was to do the same thing. The hope is that it will help individuals decrease not only the isolation, but have a sense of like, this is very therapeutic.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a really amazing art piece that you shared with us. That was gorgeous. I wanted to go a little further up in the chat to one of the, and you kind of said this a little bit too, Angel, with some of your participants, but consumers that don't feel comfortable doing remote trainings, they just don't feel comfortable in that platform. Has anybody figured out ways? Janine just dropped a whole bunch of stuff in. Playing games together online using platforms like Kahoot, Jeopardy, Labs, Trivia, etc. really helps with connection while on Zoom. And Joshua, Lightning McQueen, thanks to Laura.
We just discovered Kahoot through our youth transition coordinator, and we played it once. And of course, there's a kind of some glitches with that too, especially for those who are blind and low vision. We try to just get around that, but the concept of turning this kind of thing into a game and even as an icebreaker, I think is a really good one. It can be a lot of fun. And you have to remember to make things fun. I think that and Josh touched on something that I think is really important, which is expression through art and music, I think are extremely valuable. And it's something that we really haven't thought about as a virtual thing and thank you for bringing that up, because I've seen other people attempt to do things with, kind of low participation, but it's something that I think is worth it to get people engaged. So yeah, that's important. But yeah, I think that games is, that's a pretty good idea. It gets people in the door, gets them engaged with what you're doing, and maybe they'll come back for other things if they've had fun. It's just like if you're having a party, make sure you have food because people are always going to show up for food, and we can't really do that virtually. So make it fun in other ways. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
My name's Samantha. I'm in Center, Missouri. I did a peer support Zoom. Is my same few people that I kind of have in each one. There's only about a handful, but I did this one. It was a website called AirPano, and I can put it in the chat. It's AIRPANO. And it was kind of like taking a world tour. It shows all these places around the world and just this gorgeous scenery, and it has music from the places around the world. And so that was just a really neat way. You know, if someone said they had visited Russia, I think they adopted a daughter or something from Russia. And so we were able to pick a different few places in Russia, and all of us just visit and tour it together. So that was kind of a neat way to get out of your house, you know, mentally for a little space like that. So I know that was something I think they really enjoyed.
Thank you for sharing that, Samantha. Yeah, if you could drop that in the chat, that would be great. I also dropped into the chat on our website, on the April website, there's a COVID tab, and on one of those tabs, it's IL programs going online. At the bottom, there's ways to recreate online, A to Z. So I dropped that document in there as well. That came from one of the centers who have a recreational therapy program within their center. And so they've been engaging in lots of recreation at the very beginning. So thank you for sharing all of those. Those are really great. And I guess, does anybody, so Janine shared some of the other platforms. What other platforms? I mean, we all know Zoom. I told somebody the other day, I feel like the flight attendant when we come on, because usually I'm like, all right, you can find your microphone here. And and then like, everybody just glazes over and it's like, when is this going to be done? So what other platforms, when people tell you about them, are you not glazing over? What new things are y'all seeing, or any kind of resources that you have picked up on? I'm trying to, if anybody's on our Youth Coordinators Connect, help me remember what that other platform is that they spoke on there. We're going to be doing a training on it, so I probably should know the name of it, but it's not happened yet. So there's another platform that I know a lot of the youth programs have started using.
This is Janine from Michigan again. I know that we actually created a separate website through Weebly, and that's for our MRS fee for service, especially when we do youth transition students. So we actually take them to a different site. We have PowerPoints and Google Slides all made up for each program. We have associated videos, pre and post surveys. That really helps with organization. It's free, and everything is all there when you need it.
Oh, that's great. So you created all the material that's on there though, or you found it and then dropped it onto the website?
Yes, we created everything that's on there. Of course, you know, we did find resources online and included those as well, just as takeaways, you know, to give participants. But our team worked together to put in all the information there.
Awesome. Do you find it's, because I'm hearing mixed reviews. There's some people that have said some people are just struggling with the new technology, and there's some people that are saying some people are embracing it. So incorporating a whole new website, do you find that you lose some people within that process?
I think one of the biggest strengths that we had is at least 3 of our team members actually have a degree in technology. So they were really able to bring it all together. All of us had ideas, but they were able to make it come to fruition. So with their help, we can constantly update it when it needs it without issue.
Oh, that's nice. And I would encourage asking, that's a really good point, Janine, of asking around your staff who have hidden talents that you haven't tapped into, like the IT stuff.
Because I know something that we did run into when I started it, I had completely forgotten, you know, you want to make it accessible to screen readers. You want to make it, you know, accessible to people with low vision. So working together, we were able to kind of proofread each other and say, all right, this is going to work and this isn't.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I just dropped in, Adam, thank you. Discord is a great option for chatting and keeping people connected while you're not online. That was one of the platforms we've talked about. We used that during our conference. If you came to our conference last year, that was kind of like outside of the conference ways to connect with different people. And you can create almost like little chat rooms based on topics and stuff like that. And it's a free app that anybody can have. So that's been really nice. And it was accessible for screen readers and voice controls and all of those types of things as well. And then the other one I dropped in the chat was Prezi. This I have not used, but this is something that the youth programs, so the Youth Coordinators Connect that we run also talked about Prezi, and that is where it's interactive presentations, if you were. So we kind of get tired of seeing PowerPoints. It's a little different than like the screen share. So that's another platform that I've heard of too. And I'll just type Discord to everyone too. Discord was the other one.
This is Eddie from Northern California, and I just want to say that we love Prezi up here. The staff just loves it, and they're very much into it. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, you know, so I kind of took some notes throughout today because I don't have a really great memory, but I was hoping that we would like just pour our hearts out today and say, oh, this has just been so hard. Here are all the different places, unless y'all just didn't want to. But overall, it sounds really positive. Like you all have come out with a lot of great things to reach consumers and hitting some bumps along the way. But I think with continued sharing of what everybody's doing and checking back in with people, I would encourage you. We have the Rural Conversation series as well, and they often touch base on what everybody's doing, either with the funds or post funds, or just in general with online programming as well, just to continue sharing all of this. We have a little bit more time. I want to just open it up. Does anybody have anything else that they want to share or would like some help with?
I just wanted to add with the air panel, I'm really interested in it and I want to look into it because what we've been doing is we called it Going Around the World, and I've been doing like YouTube videos, and then I have a Google document, and then I just do it where I get like, so we did Morocco this Tuesday, and we got the history of the flag and how it was made, their flag was made. Then you have their food, and then you have tourist attractions, and then you have the people, like the people that live there, the locals, like what are the places that you need to visit from the local point of view, then the language and the culture and the way their traditional dress and their dance and their music. And that's what we do. Like every Tuesday I try to do that, where we do a different country, and sometimes we do different states throughout California. We did the US territories, and it's basically, it's another version of maybe the air panel, but I haven't really looked into that one, so I'll go into that one. But that's another way of doing it if you guys want it.
Can you share your invite link and the time of that so that I can attend that class? I really would love to travel to all those countries, so if I can do it this way, I am all about it.
They love it. They love the food ones, and they honestly prefer when I get the videos from the locals about about their food, the street food, the touristy videos that show the people traveling to that country and the food in the restaurants they go to. They don't care for them as much as they like. They want the nitty gritty, like they want the local food. So it's really interesting in how much they learn. And the flag stories, honestly, are super, super interesting, knowing how the flags are made and why the colors were chosen. And it's pretty interesting. So
that's awesome. I love that. They always say you should have a local with you when you travel anyways to get the actual like good food. So you've already done the work. All right. Well, that is awesome. So everybody sign up for that class for leaving today. I'm just kidding. But that's really awesome. Thank you all for sharing so many of your programs. I do want to remind you that August 11th, we are going to be going into the last part of this series. And that's where we're going to talk about where are you going from here. Some of you have created some really great online programming. And what do you do now? Now that things are starting to open up, maybe your center is opening up, you know, how are you bringing that community along that are either new to your programming or that are from the CARES Act? How do you keep them engaged? What do you do going forward? And how do you create that 6-minute gap in between meetings to take care of yourself and to allow your consumers to take care of what they need to as well? All the things that we talked about within that. So I welcome you to join us on August 11th, same time, 2 o'clock Eastern. That's 1, 12, or 11, depending on where you're at. This was packed full of information. I am going to save this chat. This conversation will be dropped onto our website. Since it is a partnership with the University of Kansas, you'll find that on our partnership tab as well. But you can keep up with it right on our homepage. There's a link to it as well. So I thank you all for joining. We'll head out a couple of minutes early, so maybe everybody can go to the bathroom real quick, grab a snack. But thank you all for joining, and we will see you in August.